Good morning. Hi, Sandra. Um, Florida's going to have rain today. You know what? That's okay. Rain is a necessary thing to have too. I look at rainy days as a great opportunity to stay inside and quilt. Just my favorite thing to do. Sandy, good morning. And you did try to find the pattern by Irene Huffman with no success. Okay, I did do a little bit of research. If you go to Westerly by me, and I'm going to go ahead and post it here. Westerly by me Facebook page. Under the File tab, um, you will be able to find them. Patterns. Okay. Look for Irene Huffman under the author. Okay. So that should help you find them. And if you still have trouble, just let me know. I did look them up and they are all there. Okay, Sandy. Again, if you have trouble, just let me know. Let me see if I can. Okay, I've got to be honest with you guys. I don't know how to share my screen to show you where it's at, or I would be happy to do that. That's something I do need to learn. Susie, good morning from Arlington, Virginia. It is going to be super hot for you guys today. We had it yesterday. And if it's any consolation to you, this morning it is a lovely, lovely 70 degrees with a little bit of wind. So hopefully you will get that tomorrow. Linda from the Lower Peninsula, welcome, Michigander. Evelyn, good morning. Okay, Linda, you'd like this. You do like this parabolic curve, and that's what we're going to be working on this morning. Lee, good morning. Jan, oh, welcome back. I know it's early today for you. And Jenny, okay, well, happy anniversary, Jenny. Jenny and her husband are celebrating their 25th wedding anniversary. So, congratulations. That's always awesome. Patsy, good morning. So let's go ahead and get started talking about parabolic curves. What I really love about parabolic curves is they are so much easier to do than they look. This looks terribly complicated, doesn't it? And it is just, to me, I love these little fans, how they fan out. I know you guys heard that last night, but what this is actually three triangles. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out a ruler here and show you what I mean by three triangles. This is one triangle, and this is the parabolic curve within that triangle. And then this is a second triangle. Again, a triangle within a triangle. So what you can see here is if you have just a triangular space you want to fill with a parabolic curve, this is what it's going to look like. Okay? If you put another triangle next to it, and that's going to be here and here, that's where these fans start coming in, and they are so awesome. This one definitely is my favorite. I know we're not supposed to have favorites, but I do. This is a square. I'm going to give you a little bit of a preview of a square this morning. Now, what this is we have to determine whether this is how we determine whether it's a square inside of a square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look here, and I'm going to grab another ruler here. And again, check that out. It's a triangle. It is a triangle within a square. So there's one triangle, and here's the second triangle, and we're putting them together. It depends on how you stitch, where you start. If we wanted to with this square, we could have had that fan here like we had on the triangle if we had started in a different area, okay? I like this design though. I think that's pretty cool. So what I did was I just started in a separate spot. And in order to figure out where that is, you can go to the start of the design here, and you will be able to tell where you started and how you got there. I started in the center, came up, and then over, and then back down, and just kept going around and around. And I would have started in the same spot each time. This is just a little posy. This is not one of Irene Huffman's designs. I don't know where I got this from, but it's adorable, and these are little leaves that are sticking out behind it. This reminds me of a hexagon. This is just a great way of doing I could have come all the way into the center, but what I wanna show is you can do parabolic curves in any shape you can come up with, okay? So definitely can do them any way you want. Patsy, I'm not sure if I said hi to you from Oklahoma. Janice is here from Massachusetts. We've got Gail here and Christina from Sweden. Welcome. Di Werner, good morning. Good morning. And you know what, Linda, you're right. They just keep getting better and better and better and more beautiful. And they are fun and they are a great fill and just awesome thing to do. What I did here was I wanted you to see how things started. Now, if you're working on something and you really want to just skew your eye a little bit on it, you could just do a couple layers or a couple lines of the parabolic curve instead of doing the whole thing. And I'm going to go ahead now and turn that off. I know that it kind of gets a little wonky there. So I'm going to move you down a bit. I want you to be able to see. There we go. And pull it up. There we go. Hi, Rita. It's 11 p.m. in Australia. Yeah, it gets kind of late. I know. So what I did here was I just made a 5-inch square and I cut it in half. So I've got 4 2.5-inch squares. And I started on the upper right-hand side. I started right here. And to make the parabolic square, or the parabolic curve, I'm sorry, what you're going to do is you're going to continue turning when you meet the previous line of stitching. Okay, and this is what I mean by that. Let me grab this here. I want to be more specific. Here's where I'm starting. I'm starting in my upper right-hand corner. What I am going to do is I'm going to hold my 12-inch arc, which is the only template you need to make parabolic curves. Isn't that cool? You don't need anything special. So now what we're going to do is we are going to meet it up. You know what I want to do? I want to show you guys from square one, okay? This already has a couple rounds in it. let's start right from here, from the beginning, okay? I'm going to put my needle down and pull my thread up. I think I'm going to. Okay. At this particular one, I just chose the upper right-hand corner. No reason, no rhyme to it. It's just where I have chosen to start. Okay. So now what I've got here is I've got my marked line, right? I am in the corner. I am going to twist my 12-inch arc so that the edge of the arc is right on the line where these two meet. So I'm going to go ahead, take my one stitch in place, and I'm going to stitch down until I hit that border right there. I'm going to turn. Okay, why am I going to turn? I'm going to turn because I can. If you've got a big project, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to turn your ruler, not your project. I am going to repeat that. So I have my template snug to my foot, and I'm going to put the edge of my template right where that line intersects. And we're going to head down and we're going to stop right there on that border. And we're going to repeat this. We're going to do this on each side. And in this particular case, it's 4 sides because I've done a square. You can do this with almost any shape you can think of. You can do a parabolic curve, okay? And they are a lot of fun. They really are. Okay, so now what you're going to see is this was our first line, and we came straight out from the drawn line. It's easier if we but I if we stitch these lines in, but I don't wanna do that because I want the design without these squares. So here's my square, and it looks off because you'll see that the square we have at this point is skewed, okay? But as we come together and finish this up right here, it's going to make a square within a square, but it's just going to be smaller and it's going to be off center. Okay, so we're going to stop at that previous line of stitching and we're going to turn. Here, this is a square. It's a square within a square, but it's turned, and that's okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to snug up next to our ruler foot. And again, I am going to place the edge of my ruler right here, right where that line of stitching turns the corner. And we're going to keep going. I like to slow way down when I get close to the previous line of stitching because you really want to make sure that you really want to make sure that you don't go over that line because it will skew the design just a little bit. Lee asks a really good Patsy, good morning. Um, Lee says, can this be done in a circle? And if so, how? Lee, that's a really, really great question. And what you would do in a circle is you would pick points around the circle that you would make this turn on. Um, it might look a little different on a circle, or you could use a curved the other side. You could use this side of your 12-inch arc. And I do know that there is a design that Irene did with a circle, and I did do that and found it to be actually quite easy. So here it is. This is how Lee did this. She made the straight lines coming out, and then she took the 12-inch arc and came around here with it. The name of this pattern is Around the Rosie. And if you go to Westerly by Me, under the files, you will find this pattern. I think it's absolutely lovely of Irene to go ahead and open up these patterns now that she's retired. And you can see just how beautiful the circle is. Okay, so we'll go over all those patterns here in a minute, but I hope that answers your question. Good morning, Miss Wanda. How are you this morning? uh, it is an outstanding design. It's absolutely beautiful. And the thing with the parabolic curves is play with shapes. That's what I think is so cool about these. We could just play with shapes. So I'm going to come down and I'm going to, again, slow way down when I get towards this previous line of stitching. You want to definitely make it to the line of stitching. And I'm just going to have to hand wheel over here about 1/4 of a space, but you don't want to go over it. And I like that one stitch in place because it anchors the thread on that previous line of stitching so that it won't pull at all. And what you'll see, like I said, I'm turning my fabric because I've got a small enough block I can do that. And we're going to keep going, and again, slowing way down and turning. You'll see it's still a square. It's a square within a square. And like I said, experiment with different shapes. That can be so much fun. It's amazing what you can come up with. And don't be afraid to draw it out first if you don't want to take the time to stitch not knowing if it's going to work or not. There's a lot of different shapes that just look really pretty. Now, the one other thing I'm going to caution you about is to make sure you keep going in the right direction, okay? And what I mean by that is you'll see that I've turned here, and this is where I need to go next. I'm going to come down here and go like this. However, if I overturned, I could come and do this, and I would just have a real mess. So if you know, when you're doing this, you wanna pay that little extra attention out to make sure that you're always going in a right to left or left to right, whichever way you decide to go. So Wanda said she's gotten her Ring Around the Rosie out. She loves that one. And that's the one that I just showed you, and that was be this one here, and she's got you see Irene puts, spin effects in the center too, and I am gonna go over, I want you to see just how beautiful her patterns are written. Hi, Kim. Oh, yes, I know, they're just really awesome, Kim, aren't they? Parabolic curves are the best. Okay, so these also parabolic curves are also really cool if done with specialty threads. It can really add another dimension to your work. Okay, and here we're gonna go right there. And we're just gonna keep going. You just keep repeating yourself and repeating yourself, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stop right here And I'm going to change my thread here just to give you an idea, and I hope it works well. Just to give you an idea what a specialty thread might look like here, okay? And we'll just keep going on the one we're doing. So what I've got is, get that moved out. What I've got is I've got Glamour Thread by Wonderfill, and you can tell how shiny it is. It's a 3-ply thread. It's called Glamour. It's 12 weight, so it's a good um, hefty thread, and it has 2 plies of thread and 1 ply of metallic. So what I've got here is I do have a really big needle on. You need a really big needle. So I've got a size 18 needle. And let's see if ah, my threader did work on it. Now, when you're working with these specialty threads, what you might want to do is you might want to um, take your thread tension and loosen the upper thread a little bit. Okay, and I'm not going to do a lot of this. I'm just going to show you. Okay, so here's where we stopped. And I can tell that because I started in this corner and I've got 3, 3, 3, and 3 lines of stitching. Okay, so that's why I need to start there. I'm going to go ahead, put my foot down. Oh, I guess it was down. Okay, and there we go. Get some little adjustments here and get my thread out. I'm not sure how this is going to work real well today, but we're going to give it the old college try. Okay, so I'm going to pull my thread up with my bobbin thread. I like to do that because I want the back to be as pretty as the front. And I just use a regular 40 weight in the bobbin, no worries. Okay, we'll probably only get about 1 round of this, okay? Oh, Suzanne, good morning. Good morning, Marie. Mary Ellen is here too. Do you get the okay. Jan asked um, a really great question. And she asked, do you get the same effect if you measure other than a 1/4 inch, such as a 1/2 inch in a large area to do an edge-to-edge design? The effect is the same. It's just going to be on a larger scale, Jan. Okay? You're still going to end up with the parabolic curves. They won't be quite as smooth. I hope that answers your question. Di says using different colored threads sure makes a pop. And it really does. You know, Di, that's a great observation. It will. And you saw that in Around the Rosie. Okay, so here we go. We're going to make sure that's in. And when you're using a decorative thread, you want to slow down. You want to make sure your upper tension has been released just a little bit. You don't want to totally release it, obviously. But you also want to slow down your stitching, okay? These specialty threads are pretty big, and going through the tension discs, the needle, the eye of the needle, and everything else, it can wear on them because you have your threads go through that eye many times before it hits the top of your fabric. Okay, and here we go. We're going to bring it here to that extra space, that extra stitch in place, and stop right on that line. And you'll see the difference, how much this specialty thread will make things pop. When using specialty thread, I do like to use Sewer's Aid. Another thing that you're going to want to remember is these specialty threads need to come off horizontally. Okay. And that means maybe having a different setup on your thread stand. And Wonderfil also has a product that you can put on your spool pin that will help your thread to come off horizontally when you're working with the specialty threads. So there we go. I'm just gonna go ahead and take this out. And you'll see I needed to play a little more with my tension, but you'll see that we've just got a nice little shimmer to it for a Christmas motif, such as the wreath that I'm going to show you next. That would be a nice touch just to have that specialty thread. So we're going to go ahead, move that. We're going to reset our tension. There we go. And now I am going to put in another thread because now we're going to talk about the patterns from Irene, and we're going to show you how to use a shape to make the wreath. Okay. And there is prep work that needs to be done with this. Don't skimp on the prep work. That is so important. Okay, there we go. Oh, it didn't go in. Let's try this again. Well, goodness, come back here, you. Oh, looks like we're going to have to go down through there again. It got caught on something here. This happens occasionally. There we go. I didn't get it into that last thread guide. And that's what happens when you don't. Okay, come on, you. You'll notice I'm not on my 301 this morning. Okay, and through that last thread guide, I think. There we go. Oh, goodness. I don't know. Maybe I got up on the wrong side of the bed this morning. Okay, there we go. Now we're going to pull that out. And there. Okay. So now I'm going to put this one aside because I want to talk about the Jazz Cat Designs by Irene Hoffman. Okay. And Danielle, good morning from Quebec. And Catherine is here from North Carolina. Di says that she has done these with half-inch markings, but she didn't care for the results. I think, Di, I've not done a lot with the half-inch, but I can understand why it would be a little less defined is the word I'm looking for. I think it would be a little less defined, and so we'd want to stay with the 1/4 inch whenever possible. Now, Linda has used 3/4 inch spacing. Wow, that's pretty large. On a 6-inch square and 1/2 inch spacing on a 5-inch square with great results. So, Linda, congratulations. I'm glad you came out successfully with it. And it goes to show that, we all have our own taste too. So don't be afraid to experiment with them and figure out what look you like the best. Okay. Clara, good morning from Washington State. It's early where you're at. Okay, so what we've got is I've already shown you the ring around the rosy, or around the rosy as it's called. Now I want to just kind of cover a little bit of the um, the way that Irene writes her patterns. And my philosophy or my belief is if anyone writes a near perfect pattern or a perfect pattern, it's Irene Huffman. Okay. She is so clear and she is so concise, and her patterns are just beautiful. Just beautiful. So, what we have here, she gives the approximate size. Here is her fabric. She gives a pattern key to fabrics, batting, everything else. Her Westerly supplies are all listed here. Any other supplies you need are listed here. The one thing she doesn't forget is her general sewing supplies: small scissors, fabric marker, forceps or tweezers, iron, all those things that we need, but sometimes we just don't think about. Now, when we open up this pattern, she gives us, again, really awesome examples of what we need to make this project successfully. Okay. Stable tape she talks about. She talks about using the Ashley template as well as the 12-inch arc. So she's giving us opportunities. She's giving us different methods that we can use. Everything she has written out in her patterns are so understandable and so readable. She just does a beautiful job. This particular one, we needed to have a template, and that's where I put my template for safekeeping. And here are her instructions on preparing the fabric. And here we go for marking and to continue. And remember, this is the circular one, so we're going to have a few extra steps that we don't have in a lot of other ones. So I just wanted to show you these because everything is done so well. You definitely cannot be disappointed with her patterns. Now, this one called Flower for You, this one I have done several times. I love this one, absolutely love it. I did one on gray fabric with an olive green leaf and a deep navy blue flower, and I loved how it turned out so much. The outside stitching, I personally used a thread that was the same shade as the fabric. So it showed the design, but it didn't show it in your face. It allowed the flower to be the center of the design, which I really appreciated because it was gorgeous. It really was. I believe these have all gone to Sew Steady. I don't have them any longer. Secret Garden is a it's approximately 36 by 36. So what it would make is it would make a great table topper, or you could go ahead and alter things so that it could make a nice set of placemats. Okay, and you have parabolic curves in here. You also are using your Spinifex number 4 and your Spinifex number 5 for these beautiful little flowers that we've got in there. Okay. Christmas trees. I think these two we have a Christmas tree and a wreath, and the wreath is what I'm going to be working on next. I'll be showing you next. The only difference is I have opted to eliminate the bow on the one that I'm doing right now, simply because I wanted it to be square. I have a particular spot that I want to put it in. But what beautiful wall hangings for the holidays you can make, and they are just beautiful. And again, like I said, the instructions are absolutely fantastic. She really knows how to write a pattern. Okay, so while I pull this out and get it, there we go. Get it to where I want it to be. Oh goodness, I want it to be over here. We're going to just cover the basics on this one. Let me take a look. Clara's here. Stephanie, what is the name of her book? Stephanie, she does not have a book. She has individual patterns. And if you go to the Westerly by Me Facebook page, under files, you will see those patterns. If you look on the right-hand side, it will tell you who the pattern author or the author of the file is, and who you're looking for is Irene Huffman, okay? Oh, Kathy, I'm glad you make it. Okay, so Kathy said, "Whoops." And I forgot, but I did paste that, Kathy, so you can find them. Okay, so the wreath is what I've chosen to work on with you guys today. Okay, and you last night too. And what we did was we made 16 reference lines. And on those 16 reference lines, we made some little dots or slashes in my case. 3.5, at 6.5, and at 7.5. And you're going to see how that's all going to work together. Now, the first stitching we're going to do on this is to be connecting those 3.5-inch spacing dots that we've got. So I'm going to go ahead, we're going to pretend, like I always do, that this is line 1. I'm going to bring you back down a little bit so you can see the machine a little better. There we go. You notice I don't have my 301 out. I'm working on a project that was just too big for that throat, so I brought my great big Juki out. Getting a little dry, needing a little caffeine here this morning. Okay, now, do you all have that one thread guide that you fight with? I do. I don't know why, but that one thread guide and I do not get along really well. Okay, there we go. Pull my bobbin thread up. Now, what you'll notice is I'm just using white bobbin thread, okay? The back of mine is the same fabric as the front. Could I use the green? Yeah, absolutely I could. But this is what the white looks like. And it was fine. I had some white bobbins I wanted to use up, so I decided this was going to be a good place to do that. Okay, there we go. And get myself all situated here, making sure that I'm in the right spot. Always have your needle down. Now, on this particular, to start on this particular portion, what we're going to do is we're going to stitch from mark to mark. And so I need my spacing gauge, and that's all there is to it. And yes, I am using my 12-inch arc. Okay. If it's straight, that's okay. It's supposed to be. All righty. And around we go. And one more time, because I don't want to bore you with straight stitching here, okay? But what we're going to do is we're going to go all the way around that. I'm just going to do a quarter of my block. Okay. I'm just going to take a couple really small stitches back. And now I can cut my threads off without tying them. Sometimes it's easy to take time to tie them. Other times it's not fun to take time to tie them. Or you just don't have the time. Or for some people, you just would rather not. And that's fine too. Okay. And I'll do the same up here because I did take a couple small locking stitches. There we go. And we get all that extra thread out of the way. So the first step is to take and do this 3.5-inch circle all the way around. Now there is a specific direction on how we are going to make these stitches next. There we go. Okay, there is a specific order. One thing that I found very helpful, okay, and this is not something that's addressed in the pattern. It's just something that I came up with because I'm blonde. I wanted to make sure that I was hitting the right area to start my stitching when I get to my parabolic curves. So what I did was I just made a little X where I'm going to start them. Okay. And the pattern, let me pull that out. The pattern will show you where you're going to start. Okay. And get that out here. So what she does is she shows us where our starting point is and in what direction we're going to go. So there's round 1, round 2, 3, 4, and so forth. So this is extremely helpful. If you have never done parabolic curves, you can do them with these instructions. Definitely. Marcy, good morning. Joyce. Oh, I'm glad you made it here, Joyce, but we will have this videotaped, so you will be able to watch it from the beginning again, okay? So, the next thing we need to do after we get that particular step done is we need to outline these shapes right here. And again, Irene thought of everything. Here's the stitching plan for outlining these shapes. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how that's done. We're going to start here at number 1. So let me go ahead and pull myself in. This one's going to be a little thicker, but that's okay. We're starting at that 3.5-inch mark. Pull our thread up, needle down, foot down first though, right? We always have to remember to put that foot down first. Okay, guys. Oh, there it is. I was saying, who took my ruler? I have a bad habit of losing things and dropping things, but you all know that. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to stitch up to that 7.5 inch mark. Okay, and using my spacing gauge because I want to make sure I get there, taking that one stitch in place. Remember, this is a journey, not a race. You want to take your time, enjoy the journey. I'm sure I have a few students who've been with me a while who would like to slap me when I say that. Right, Wanda? Lois is here. Good morning. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to trim these off. Remember, this is a practice piece. So I'm not going to go through all the bearing and such. Okay, so that was our line number 1. So now we come in with our line number 2. We are at the 7.5 inch mark, and now we are going to stitch to the 6.5 inch mark. Okay, and I'm going to use the right side of my spacing gauge. Okay, take my first stitch in place. Come down. Now, when I made this quilt sandwich, I just spray basted the layers together. When it's something that's this small, I find that extremely easy to do. And it usually holds pretty well. Okay, so now line 3 is going to come all the way into that 3.5 inch mark. And then line 4 is going to come all the way out to that 7.5 inch mark. And then we're just going to keep repeating ourselves. Okay, now because we're double stitching on this line, and depending on how confident you are, what I have decided to do was stitch forward and stitch backward. Do you have to do that? No, you don't. What you can do is you can go ahead and rotate the fabric. The reason I don't is because it is, there we go. It is a good idea to learn to stitch in all directions. This is a small piece of fabric, so it's easily turned, but if this were a large piece of fabric, I would have to turn it each time I come to one of these lines, and there's 16 of them. So while we might be getting a great upper body workout, we just may not want to have to turn it that many times. Okay, and there's my 7.5 inch dot. So now I'm just going to come back over to my 6.5 inch mark. Again, taking that first stitch in place. And now we're just going to continually repeat that, okay? And I won't do that for the sake of time. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and snip that off. So now what we have done, in essence, is we have created a shape for our parabolic curve to go into, okay? Now, when we get the design, the pattern out, I want to show you this one more time. Irene has a specific stitching directions on how to fill in each of the wedges. Every wedge is going to be the same. Every wedge is going to start at the same point and end at the same point. And that is why I went in and put these little notations here. Don't ask me why. I know that it's necessary for me to do that. What you don't want to do is start here on this wedge and start here on this wedge. It won't work. Okay? You need to start in the same spot on each of your wedges. Lois, good morning. Nice to see you. Don't apologize for being late. Not a problem at all. Okay, so now that we're caffeinated, I'm going to come here. This is my starting point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my thread up at my starting point. There we go. Pull that bobbin thread. Remember, I've got white in here just because I've got a lot of white bobbins I need to use in my needle down. Holding my thread back so that I don't get a thread nest. So now I have laid my 12-inch arc so that is touching the side of the foot, and I'm going to adjust it so that this point falls right at the edge of that template, okay? One stitch in place. There we go. Take your time. What's nice about projects like this is you can work on your, I call stitch integrity. Try to work hard at keeping that stitch length even. It's great practice. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trim this off. That was the only line of stitching that we needed our spacing gauge for. From this point on, we're using the points that we have stitched out or drawn out to go from one area to the next. Again, I think it's really, really important to take that stitch at the corner before you start stitching in. Keep those corners nice and sharp. Okay, there we go. Had to rearrange a little bit there. We're going to stop when we hit the line of stitching with our needle down. I'm going to turn it. Now what you're going to notice is this one is way shorter than the other three, but that's okay. That's what's going to give it its character. Okay, and off we go. We're going to again stop when we hit that previous line of stitching. Always doing the same thing. We're always lining up our template at the side of the foot, and we're going to line it up right here where the intersection is. Okay. There we go. Let me take that extra stitch. And we're going to just keep on going around and around and around. And what I want you to see is how things work once we get towards the center, where we will start losing this piece to stitch on. And that's what's going to make this really pretty curve right here. Okay. Now, if I wanted this to be a fan, I could switch the stitching around and such. But when you're first starting parabolic curves, I think it makes sense to stick with the pattern. And if you want to experiment with sizes, with, there's a whole lot of different shapes we can experiment with. Get some scrap fabric out and just go ahead, draw it out with a pen and just continue to work those shapes. It can get very surprising how some things can look. I mean, I've seen some absolutely gorgeous things that I thought never should have worked with parabolic curves, but they absolutely do. Okay. And here we go. Now, you may stitch a lot faster than me, and that's okay. Some people do. But remember, when you're getting towards that previous line of stitching, you don't want to go over it, okay? You definitely want to stay within it. I feel like I've got something under there. I guess not. Okay, and right here again. And don't forget that extra stitch. And you see, we just keep going around and round and round in circles. Does it make you dizzy? Well, it does me, but I'm dizzy to begin with. I don't think it's any different than a normal day for me. I'm just teasing. Actually, no, it will not make you dizzy. Um, it does keep you on your toes, though, to make sure that you continually go in the right direction. So you don't want a whole lot of distraction. And what I've found is I don't like to stop stitching and walk away from my machine in the middle of one of these sections when I'm stitching it out. Okay. I also need to keep my inner squirrel under control while I'm doing this. Okay. We're almost to this point now where this is going to start disappearing. And that's a really cool thing. There we go. And one more time, again, stopping at that previous line of stitching, taking that extra little stitch here. Oh, Maureen, I'm sorry you couldn't find me earlier, but we will have this replaying. So, and you can always find it at So Steady and 906 Quilting YouTube channels. Okay, so you'll see how much further this goes up as we get closer to the center. These longer lines stay pretty consistent. It's the short ones that are really going to start looking different for us. Okay, and what I mean is this area right here. So let's go ahead. I want to get at least one of these done for you this morning. There we go. I know it's a lot of turning. Now we're going to come here. And this is where we're really going to start losing the short straight line that started at the 3.5-inch mark. Okay. So when you look here, you might say, well, I can't put that there. It's not going to work, but it will. It'll feel like it's not going to work, but it will. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put our 12-inch arc on the foot, and we're going to line it up where these two lines of stitching meet. And look at how far up we're going. That's okay. That's the way it's supposed to be. Okay? Don't let that freak you out. It really will make the design without any problems. Okay, now we're going to go this way. And we're going to have another long one. Oops, wrong side. And there we go. Now this one's going to be a little further off yet, and it's going to be, you're going to look at this and go, now it's definitely not going to make it, right? Not true. We're going to be able to do it. But look how far up it comes. And this is some of the wonders of these designs. So now what we need to do is come to this. So again, I'm lining myself up just like I've done. And now we're going to stop here. And to me, this is the point that the magic really happens. Okay. We're going to be able to come. This one's easy. Coming all the way down. And do you see that curve forming? Right here, we're making our curve. I'm going to twist again. And again, we're going to go to that next turn in our thread. Now, this is where it gets kind of, what do we do next, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it, because you'll see I don't have a view of that last little turn here. So I'm going to go from where I'm at to this line. And that is almost square across, but that's okay. Now we're going to come down into this one. Okay, 1 or 2 more turns, and we will have this one knocked out. Okay, I think that is it. So I'm going to go ahead and make a couple little stitches here. And there we go. And that is our parabolic curve in a wedge shape. So I'm almost halfway there. I have 10 more to go, and then I will put my spin effects in the center to make this very festive. I will use red, just like Irene has. Well, Janice, good morning. I didn't see you come in. Thank you, Linda. You are welcome. Okay. Oh, Bev, that's okay. You can sleep in when you want. No problem. Okay, so do you have any questions about parabolic curves and what we've looked at this morning? Okay. Thank you, Susie. I do like this too. I like it very much. So, what we will do oh, Jennifer, welcome. Oh, thank you. Yes, the instructions can be found on the Westerly by Me Facebook page under Files. And what you're going to look for is the files authored by Irene Huffman. And there's Irene's name. Okay. I did post it earlier too, so you can always go back to the replay and it'll be there. Trust the oh, Suzanne, that is so true. Trust the directions. Just trust them. Yeah. Good morning, Kathy from Grimsby, Ontario. So, if we don't have any questions, what I want to do is have you all have a great day. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And remember that I am available soulstudy.com under the education tab, instructors. You can find my contact information. You can leave me a message there if you'd like as well. And until we meet again, let's quilt.